Welcome back to the program. It's still a conversation here on Lagos Television. It's May 1st, and of course, it's Workers' Day here in Nigeria. And on the conversation this morning, we will be taking a look at the Nigerian worker between resilience and productivity. Resilience and productivity, two tough words, of course, and at such a time when the country is going through a turbulence, how much of resilience and productivity can workers still exhibit in the face of the hardship? And joining us today is a human resource expert. He's also a labor advisor and the MD CEO, Exitom Consulting Limited, Adeyemi Ajayi. Thank you for being here, Mr. Ajayi, on the program today. Happy Workers' Day.
Yeah, same to
you. Right. So because you're an HR expert, and then those two words, resilience and productivity, are two key words that, of course, when assessing a worker, you would look at how resilient they are and how productive they can be. And I'm sure that, of course, in the workplace, you do not expect slothfulness based on the economic situation. But so if we're to look at resilience and productivity, those words, what are the places of those words when it comes to a worker generally, before we break it down to a Nigerian worker?
Yeah, resilience is just the ability of workers to cope with, adverse situation at workplace. If you look at it at certain points in everybody's career, there's a resilient, activities, either internally or externally. But again, if we're going to look at Nigerian contexts, we're looking at it more from an external factor at workplace. And productivity has to do with delivering results on the job. Because for every worker, there is expectation or expectations, from those who hire them, either government or private sector. Right. But again, resilience has limits. Productivity also has to be managed, because if you get to a breaking point of resilience, I can tell you productivity will fly out.
It'll be zero.
It will go down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Jibola, so.
Okay, so what's the link or the connection rather between productivity and motivation? Because if you expect your worker to be productive, at least you must put certain things in place for them to be productive.
Oh, absolutely.
So tell us the link between the two.
You see, motivation is just a way of swelling up your energy to work. I'll just put it that way, simple. But again, you can have innate motivation and external motivation. But again, in the context of workplace, everybody needs motivation. You can lose that vibe for productivity. Productivity is, you ask me to do X, Y, Z. And there are conditions that will make me to achieve them. Motivation is one of them. And of course, you can have financial and non-financial motivation. Financial motivation is very important in this situation. But if you get to a point where I don't get motivated doing what I am doing, the link is there is positive correlation between motivation and productivity. The more motivated I am, the more productive I will be. The less motivated, the less productive. But again, we'll come to a workplace where we have slave masters. Some that, they will not motivate you, but they want you to just get it done. The question is, I'm not spirit, I'm human. As much as you want me to do X, Y, Z, put the right thing in place. And motivation is very, very important. There's difference between working and being productive. Performing is getting the job done. Productive is getting it done the right way.
Okay. So in the context of the Nigerian worker now, be it a government employee or a self-employee or someone who's also working for someone in a private organization, since you've just talked about the fact that they can actually get the work done and you're not doing it correctly. And so motivation can also be financial or otherwise. So it could also be some kind of words that you use on your worker, some gestures. So if you're not even saying thank you monetarily, you can say thank you by doing other things. And so how motivated are workers in Nigeria, especially in recent times where you take a look at your pay home and it's not even adding up to the number, to the amount you're spending on fuel every month or every week. And so can one still be productive in the face of the hardship that we are currently facing in Nigeria?
That comes to personal drive. Because the situation in Nigeria at the moment is not encouraging anybody, either public sector or private sector, as the case may be.
Right.
And that's because, you see, the more we are balancing two trajectories at the same time, and one is swelling above the other.
Okay.
You know, as much as there is need, the employers of labor, whether government or private sector, the measuring up to that need is very difficult at the moment. Yeah, it's very difficult. So if you're looking at Nigerian Worker, now I would tell you economic value is the motivation. And economic value comes from what they take home. You know, I keep telling people at several fora that, see, at the moment, anyone that goes out of his way to do anything extra is because that person has very deep, good spirit. You have enough thing to make you just lose faith, even working. You deal with lights, NEPA, you deal with fuel issues, you deal with, school fees, you deal with so many things. So I'll just put it that an average Nigerian worker is going through turbulence. And that turbulence is something that can create mental health for many people. This year's theme is talking about health and safety
in the workplace.
In the workplace. And look at it, health is not just physical, it's a state of mind. In fact, let's start from the state of mind. So if workers don't have the right state of mind, they get to work, they just say, well, it's a regular thing, and they're not motivated to do anything.
And in turn, sorry, Jubala, and in turn, that also affects productivity because you're just marking the books.
Absolutely.
You just come in and then you're not even particular about, okay, let this month just go, let me get my paycheck, and let me just do what needs to be done. But is that also good for the economy of the country, either through the public or the private sector?
It's not good for the economy, but something is taking people's attention. It's not the right thing, it's not the ideal thing. You're supposed to get to work, be productive, do your job, do it the right way, get results, get it done, and you're happy. But you get distracted by so many things. Live to it what is going on at the moment, the fuel scarcity. Imagine somebody going through tough time of getting fuel. You get to work around, you're supposed to resume 8 o'clock, but you couldn't get fuel. You came in around 10 o'clock, and you have piles of things to do. You just feel like, look, I'm tired. I've been at the filling station since 5 a.m. I managed to get this. And, you just become so touchy. And tell me what was going to happen.
Irritable.
For the rest of the day.
And everything just sparks. everything just sparks.
Okay, so what exactly do you think can be done to make the Nigerian worker comfortable, to make them productive? And then on the part of labor leaders as well, what are the realities of our times that they need to bear with government? Because I have a particular report by Wise Voter. It's an online resource, and it ranked Nigerian workers among the least paid in Africa. In North Libya, their minimum wage is $321. Morocco is $314. Algeria is $140. And Lesotho is $109 compared to ours, which is between $20 and $25. So for labor and government, what's the way forward?
You see...
because labor will continue to demand.
Definitely.
Because of the inflation that we have in the country.
Definitely.
And government will tell you that, okay, fine, we are trying our best to make you comfortable, but because of the economic realities of our time, we cannot pay beyond certain amounts. So where should be the meeting point?
If you look at global governance, there are three major factors that drive government. The resources, the people, and of course you come to the system. But don't let me talk about the system. Let me focus on the people. What makes government to run is the people. What makes private sector to run is the people. And if you care, I can tell you that Nigeria only ranked above Chad, above Sudan, above Benin Republic.
Isn't that painful?
And we're the fourth largest economy in Africa. So imagine what people take home. $20, $25 is nothing, It's something that cannot even feed, if you look at it, an individual for a week.
You didn't want to sound...
No, I
Without sounding.
You wanted to say a dog.
Because look at it, we've read all these countries. I mean, the welfare of workers should be at the front burner.
Right.
It should be at the front burner, and I know there should be equivalence in the sense that government should look for a way to have palliatives for workers now. It's not all about money, money, money. You know, if you pay the workers 1 million naira minimum wage today,
It will still not be enough.
it will still not be enough. But what can government do? I know there should be access to healthcare. There should be access to education at a level that's, you know,
Is accessible
and affordable. You should also have access to transport that you know that you can afford, and also a lot of things that, you know, basic things that can make life better for the workers. So when they get to negotiation table between the labor and the government, the labor should not absolutely go for full money. They should ask for other things, you know, that will support, I mean, the livelihood of average workers. Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, that initiative that Mr. President launched few days ago, about weeks ago, the consumer credit scheme, is it something that you think is also able to support workers, since it's even meant to start with the civil servants as the pilot case? So such initiatives, are they also able to help balance the equation between you buying upfront on credit what you can't readily pay for? Are such initiatives able to at least give workers a subtle balance when it comes to you thinking about the kind of things that you also should have access to but you cannot readily afford?
Yeah, I think it's a very good and welcome initiative.
Okay.
But let's think beyond what government is doing.
Okay.
There should also be a dimension where private sectors, banks, financial institutions should be encouraged that certain portion of their credit portfolio should also support this initiative.
Okay.
You know, because we have a large number of people working, you know. So this credit scheme, it's a global thing. You know, where, okay, I want to buy XYZ, I don't have the money, let me buy on credit. But again, we have credit character issue in Nigeria.
We have trust
you
issues.
Know, when those things come and you know that it's coming from government, an average Nigerian believe it's a free money.
Right.
It's a national cake.
It's a national cake, so that's my own portion. Before you know it, the whole thing is bastardized. The way it should work, it should be a revolving credit.
Right.
You know, I have access to it at the end of the month to take the money. It just gives me relief. However, we should look beyond that. That's just a very fractional part of the solution. Because some people are credit averse. They'll tell you that, no,
I don't want to do that.
I don't want to take that. You know, but again, circumstance could happen for people who even access this loan and they won't be able to pay. You know, so all these things will affect their credit rating, which is not their fault. So we should deal with this in multifaceted ways. You know, there should be more focus on welfare. You know, a lot of things that happen abroad, we can benchmark against all those things. You know, if, for example, now as government workers, you tell that, okay, for every government worker in Nigeria, you're sending your child to school, you have 30% discount in school fees. You know, it will motivate you.
Okay.
It will be part of what will help you.
Right.
So things like that will drive you.
But from what you also just mentioned earlier, isn't it also a problem where the character, or because you've tested some of those things before and it didn't end well because of the attitude of Nigerians generally, and then you just get to think that, oh, I don't think this initiative will work because, one, we all have trust issues with ourselves, with government, and with things around, and so you think, okay, I don't think I want to risk opening up this because of so reasons. So is government ever going to get to that level where, irrespective of whether or not a scheme has been successful or has failed, you will try again, because at the end of the day, it is to help your people, your citizens?
Okay, you see, let's look at what happens in advanced country. It's a normal thing there. You see, credits, the system can force you to comply with the credit requirements. You want to access this loan, fine, you're given a card. you have 100,000, 200,000 naira to spend and everything. That card is linked to your account, and it has a point where you will pay. So you won't think that it's government free money. If you abandon the bank account and say you don't want to use, one day money will flow through that account.
Sure.
You know, so it's about designing systems. I think what government should do before they go fully into that initiative is to look at end-to-end how the system should work.
Okay.
You know, there's been failures in the past where people even, the criteria for availment is not there. People give to their friends and all that. But there should be a system. Everybody should have access to it. You don't even need to talk to anybody. Just go online, fill the form. The system will do your credit rating and tell you that, okay, this is what you can access.
Okay.
You put your BVN and all other things there. Yes, you can spend the money. It's, you know, it's money available for you. But again, if it's time for you to pay, you are not going to beg anything. You can't beg the system.
It's direct from source.
I tell the system, please. So, not like that. The system will just take it.
Right.
Okay, again today we are going to see the ritual of governors making speeches, you know, promises here and there. I just want to find out from you, what do you think Labour leaders should do to speak directly to the heart of our leaders, whether at the state, local or the federal level, in such a way that they will feel the pains of the Nigerian workers, because they complain all the time that there is no money, yet they are flamboyant, and we can see. And that is encouraging everyone to, okay, not everyone, some people to go into corruption as well, because they want to find a means.
You see, Nigeria has a dry-headed problem, and corruption is that thing. But let's even look at that. Today is the day that Labour should push for values for workers. And that comes from, you know, asking government to do the right thing. Now, your question is, how would Labour go about this? There are a lot of things out there that Labour can rely on. For example, the purchasing power has fallen so terribly. You know, life expectancy ratio has fallen. The means of livelihood has fallen. Inflation is there. You know, I don't think we've had inflation above 30% for a long time. You know, I think the last time I can remember inflation happening was between 86, 85, 86, 87. You know, but now we're back to that cycle. So how can we really handle that? Today is the day that, you know, Labour should tell Nigerians that the cost of bread is now going to 1,008, 2,000. Fuel is going to, in so many places, 1,000 naira per litre. How do you want us to survive? Yeah, I'm paying more for tariff in terms of my electricity. And see, the indices, you know, the spending indicators are going quite very high, whereas the income remain dwarfed, you know. So how do I survive? The impacts, apart from corruption, it can lead to higher crime rates. It can lead to even, you know, a lot of social menaces. You know, a lot of people will just want to do whatever to survive. Right. You know, which is not really good.
Labour is also saying today that the present administration led by President Tinubu has made life difficult for workers with anti-poor policies. And so if you look at the resilience and productivity of workers, how do government policies really affect workers in its entirety without necessarily picking on the whole of this government and anti-people policies? So if you were to take a holistic look at policies generally, how they are created for the masses and how policies being created for the country also has an effect on workers. So how has this affected resilience and productivity of workers?
You see, before a policy can be effective, you need to bring the right stakeholders to the table. You know, were these people, you know, Labour and all that representing the people, were they part of this policy development in the first place? Okay. You know, who were this policy meant to benefit? What were this policy meant to change? You know, I've been part of so many national policy developments and I see values in them. But the question I kept asking at different, you know, time is that, you know, these people that are going to be affected by this policy should be part of this development. Okay. Don't leave them out so that you can address the real pain points. At times, so many policies are just mere documents that just end up somewhere and it doesn't have impact as such. But again, what we're experiencing in Nigeria, I'll tell you, is not only happening here. It's happening
It's global.
it's global. It's happening in so many African countries. But again, I still believe the governments, for now, so far, need to do more. To do more.
Government needs to do more. Absolutely.
Okay, let me quickly take you back to a particular statement from the DG of Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, Mr. Adeyemi Ajayi. He said the current economic conditions marked by high inflation, elevated interest rates, increased business expenses, higher electricity tariff, like we have said here, and rising petrol costs have made it a challenging time to negotiate for the new national minimum wage. Do you agree?
I agree with him. I absolutely agree with him. You see, this thing is both here and there. It's on the part of the government in terms of resources. It's on the part of the people in terms of need. You see, these factors that Oyerinde mentioned are very, very important to put on the table for conversation. In fact, that's where we should start. Let's do the analysis of where we are, and let's determine where we are going to from there. Because if you don't consider things like this, cost of fuel, inflation, standard of living, and all that, what are we talking about? Because those will be the indicators that will show that these policies, these decisions are hitting the right point. And I also think that NECA is a very good platform to ride on, to even engage the government as much as labor, so that employers also have voice in this table.
In fixing the new national minimum wage.
Absolutely. And I believe NECA is doing a fantastic job now.
Still staying on issues around the policy, the minimum wage, Joe Ajero, the NLC president, is also saying, because here you mentioned the facts that were some of this, were they part of the initiatives, the policies, were they carried along? And so he's saying here that we warned them meaning the federal government, about the consequences of their policies, and they insisted that they know better. So we must insist on getting a living wage, a national minimum wage that will not amount to poverty or starvation and reinforce poverty. So you mentioned earlier that there is no amount of money that is negotiated that can ever be enough for workers. And so as the labor goes back to the negotiating table with the federal government, you've also mentioned the fact that this isn't just about cash. They must also begin to negotiate other things that will also form part of what it will be side by side. So aside an agreement as to how much government will pay, what other things can labor also use as their yardstick and be part of the policy? Because when things happen at the federal, they must also cascade to the state level. And oftentimes you hear the state saying, we cannot pay this amount, only the federal can pay this amount. So as labor is going into the negotiating era again with government, what are some of those imminent things that they must ask for? Because again, sometimes they also ask for the unseen, or things that government may also not be able to give, and so that also gets to a stalemate. So what are some of the possibilities, aside money now, that labor must also put on the table, the negotiating table, as something that should cascade to both the federal and the state levels?
Yeah, I think that there are quite a lot. Part of it is what we're facing now. Labor should go to the table and ask the government, can we reduce this fuel price?
Okay.
Yeah. We were told that if subsidy is removed, fuel price will go up.
Down.
It will stabilize.
It will stabilize, and then there will be better competition.
Yeah, but that is not what we're saying. I think labor should ask for that. Labor should also ask government, what is the solution to inflation? If you pay us money, inflation will eat it. So deal with that also. Labor should also consider that. Labor should be part of that solution. Another thing labor can ask for has to do with education. Most people I know are not even taking their children to private school anymore. Some are sending their children to public schools. There's nothing wrong with public school. I went to public school.
We've talked about it this morning.
We've all gone to, and it helped us.
Right.
So why can't labor come and say, you know what, can we face education? can we also make educational system okay and make, make it affordable? Yes, it's a long-term thing, but let's start from somewhere. Up to secondary level, if possible, tertiary institution. Can we also face healthcare? Can an average worker in Nigeria have access to subsidized treatment? People are dying. People are giving birth to children at home. They can't go to hospital. They can't afford it.
And the cost of medication these days?
It's crazy. The drug you buy for 2,000, 3,000 is now 10,000, 15,000. People can't even afford it. So these are the things that labor should take to the table. Not just about the money. Labor should even focus on some of these things more. Because if that money comes in, these things are opening mouths to swallow them.
And I remember in those days, we used to have housing scheme for government workers, and in some states, they are no longer there.
You see, all these things are not impossible. I'm very sorry to say, you just get to some states, you feel poverty. I travel quite a lot, because of the nature of my job. You feel poverty, and you see some people within the same states living like emperors, enjoying the whole thing. The question is, why is such thing happening? We have cases of recent of people being accused and all that. Should that even happen at all? We should have a system that does not allow flow of money into some people's hand. It should rather go into structures, into projects, and it should be that way. Then we minimize this thing. Okay,
in addition to Abimbola's question the other time, I live in Lagos. The other time you were here, I raised this particular question again. I live in Lagos, somebody else lives in Osun State, somebody else in Port Harcourt. Can we begin to look at a situation whereby the national, or states rather, will be allowed to fix their minimum wage? Because the cost of living in Lagos is not the same as that of Osun State. So when you now bring a uniform salary that, okay, you're all going to get 30,000 naira minimum wage, I might be shortchanged because I work in Lagos.
Okay, let me tell you one thing that we don't do in this country. And it's something, a true federalism is such that gives compartmentalization in terms of uniqueness of each state. So, like you rightly mentioned, Osun, Ekiti, Enugu, we all have different things. So we should have range in terms of minimum wage. Minimum wage from 300,000 to 700,000. Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, you are in this band. You can deal with that.
Band.
So, if I want more money, if I'm working in Ekiti, let me relocate to Lagos. Because the truth is, if you look at it that way, most times negotiations are based on the least undeserved states, where they know that, okay, if you are in Osun State with 50,000, you can survive, so everybody should take 50,000. They say, no. We in Lagos, we go through more now, we should have more, So there should be a range, and that range should now break every state, That's why I say it should compartmentalize everybody, so that you know that, okay, at the negotiation table, this state belongs to this class
range
and this range and all that.
So it's not uniform.
I do not support a uniform because with 1,000 naira, it may be difficult to eat in Lagos, but with 1,000 naira in Jos,
it might be better.
It might be better. So we should consider that.
Okay, peculiarities.
Yeah.
So in the face of all that we're going through, I'm sure that workers still probably need some words of encouragement this morning, because again, you cannot assume that because there is no fuel, there is no food to eat, you will abandon your duty post and you won't come to work. So in the face of all the hardship, what's your charge to workers this morning? Because today is just a holiday. By tomorrow, everybody's back to work, to reality. And so what's your charge to workers this today and going forward, asking that, even in the midst of uncertainty, you still do your very best at being productive and resilient?
Yeah, my charge to workers, Nigerian workers, is this is our country. We may have it very bad, but we should still be focused on national interest. We should continue our commitment as much as possible. We should continue to show dedication, tenacity, and as much as possible do our best. Because if we all decide to fall because we don't get the value we're expecting, we all feel the pain.
Right.
Yeah, so you should contribute your own quota by your own commitment, by your own value proposition. It's not easy. It won't be easy. It will come with pain, but we build nations through pain till everybody is very happy.
But are you confident that there is indeed light at the end of the tunnel?
Absolutely. Someone said that, you know, the NEPA man at the end of the tunnel has taken it, but I believe in Nigeria. I believe in Nigerian project. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, so the tunnel is still there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I want to say this, that a day is coming that an average worker in Nigeria will be rated as one of the best in the world.
Okay. I think we are all alive, and Jibola is not feeling that at all.
Hey, I'm not a Thomas.
No, but it may be beyond what we can see now.
Okay.
Yeah, it
But
may be.
you're projecting.
Yes.
Adeyemi, I quite agree that we should bear with government, we should share in the pains, but what are they sacrificing as well? Nothing. They live large, we see it.
Absolutely. But let me also tell you, with what I said, people are going to react one day to force them to do the right thing. It will not be a bloody thing. There is going to be a strong negotiation, strong discussion. This is what we want.
Because
Government.
before you came in, I told Abimbola that government is pushing people to the wall. And Abimbola said that, oh, the wall will keep moving.
I said the wall will keep moving.
You know, at the beginning I said you get to a point where the world cannot even stand itself. But we might not get to that point because we're very resilient people.
Very, very.
resilient.
But I mean, that also should not mean that we should be taken for granted.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's why I said the day is coming. You see these younger generations, they are going to question us. They're going to question you, what did you do? That is why I'm saying they will wake up one day. They will ask you and I and government for accountability.
Okay. I agree with you because my 4-year-old son this morning still asked me, but mommy, why? You need to tell me why. And I carried my bag and I left the house because I had no answer to the why. All right, thank you so much, Adeyemi Ajayi, for being here on the program today. Human resource expert, labor advisor, and MDCO, Exetom Consulting Limited. We're sharing your hope that Nigeria will be a better place someday, sometime in the nearest future.
Thank you.
We'll take a